cider.
All right, welcome to episode 4 of Culture Insanity, the podcast. Again, the opinions expressed in this podcast are ours alone and shouldn't be used to reflect the specific views of our church, Aletheia Bible Fellowship. The Culture Insanity podcast is an external ministry of Aletheia of Portland, Oregon, and a member of their Vigilance Radio Network, a part of Vigilance.blog, ABF's web portal that provides helpful and interesting resources for the church, local and at large. If you're interested in today's topics or just staying relevant, go ahead and check out cultureinsanity.wordpress.com, or you can check us out on Facebook and Twitter at Culture Insanity. So, here we are, episode number 4. Had a bit of a hiatus there. But we're back. Turn my mic down a little bit here. What's up? How you been, Josh?
All right. How's the feed going? We're trying something new.
We got Heidi Parker on board.
Does it show that it's recording?
It shows a red dot for recording. It shows
Time
Heidi Parker. Time limit.
All right.
Cool. Let's see. Oh yeah, live 1:35. So 1 viewer. So we're a humble podcast, but we're at least growing by 1. So I feel like a lot has happened. Heidi says hi. Hi, Heidi. I feel like a lot has happened since we last met. It's been, 2.5 weeks or something?
Yeah.
I think you had a little vacation sprinkled in there. We had a eldership retreat, and a lot has happened. So let's kick it off. I don't know. I guess we start with the biggest news story in popular culture, because it's the news story that's absolutely not going away. I feel like every single morning I wake up and there's some new development on it, and that is the Harvey Weinstein, I don't know, I feel like calling it a scandal would be putting it extremely lightly, because it's 30 years of abuse on his part.
Yeah, what would you call it, a saga?
Yeah, which is a horrible thing to say, saga. For those who somehow do not know, Harvey Weinstein, in the last, a week and a half or something, it's come out that he's, abused women, used his position of power within the industry in Hollywood to use and abuse women by sexually assaulting them, sexually harassing them. So we got decades of abuse going on. Many women, many famous actresses, many not so famous actresses and people in the industry have come out since then and told their personal stories about it. Heavy stuff, man. I read one story today. It's this, I think she was like a soap opera actress or something, but basically he literally raped her, forced oral sex onto her.
Allegedly. Yeah, I mean, no criminal charges have been brought up.
Sure, and there's the whole statute of limitations thing. I feel like we're branding my work right now. I work for Columbia Distributing, but anyways, so yeah, what are your thoughts just to get us rolling here?
Well,
Lots of thoughts.
I know that, it's a hard one. I mean, anytime that you have people in power, and again, it's alleged, but it's really hard not to just pass judgment.
Yeah.
Sure. Anytime that you have people in power, this is always going to be a difficult thing, regardless of. And when I mean this, what I mean is not abusing that power.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
It's always going to be a difficult thing. It doesn't matter what institution it's in, and I think especially in this institution where what your job is essentially finding people to lust over.
Or you personally or the masses. Yeah.
Right.
Like his job is to, exactly like you said, find people and create the next big star by placing him in the next big movie. And
right. I mean, it may sound really sort of sick to put it in these terms, but maybe the reason he's so successful is because he has he has that
An eye for it.
Yeah, he has that proclivity. It's his genius is also his downfall.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, and what's really crazy, and this is the part that annoys me the most, is that it's 30 years, and it was a widely known thing about this guy.
Yeah,
so
seems like it.
There are so many people that, in my opinion, should be taking some responsibility for allowing this to go on. Just earlier this week, George Clooney and Matt Damon, two of the biggest actors of ever, I guess, came out, and they've, worked closely with this guy in many different movies throughout their careers.
He made their careers.
Yeah, so they have this to say. So yeah.
Hey, just a side note before we get there, since we got somebody in the audience, can you tell us if you can hear the sound card that was playing
Live?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it was able to play that sound of the clip.
That would be interesting for us to know going
Yeah.
forward. But yeah, no. So many people, and like I listen to many podcasts throughout the week, and I listen to a few different like comedy podcasts, and so people that are just like small time in that industry, like stand-up comedians, they were never in movies. They don't have any relationship with this guy whatsoever. But even like these people, like everyone in this industry knew about this for decades, and no one has said anything for 30 years, and only now. And I'm not even sure why now. I don't even remember. There's been so much details that have come out in the last week. Like, what happened? What was the straw that broke the camel's back on this? Do you even remember? Because like I said, I read stuff every day, and it's like
it's just sort of here. I think that what you have is technology really bringing to the forefront those deepest seeds, and Scripture says that all things will be revealed at some point.
Yeah.
So, and that's what we have here. We're having this be revealed. I mean, how do you hide in a world where every device is a listening device? Every phone is a listening device, and everybody has access to it. And it's not like you have to get it on tape and then get it through the right channels to get it through the court system and all sort of stuff. It's like it's immediate. And we go back to a couple episodes ago. We talked about the guy who. During the Vegas shooting.
Dan Bilzerian?
Yeah, like he immediately was streaming his trauma that was happening.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, so it works in favor of the victims in this case, where immediately they can bring something forward. And I think it's just going to be harder and harder for people to hide stuff like that.
Yeah, and since his story broke, now you have like recently the chief officer, or the head of Amazon Studios.
Yeah.
He left because
he just stepped down.
Similar things, and just yesterday or the day before, this other filmmaker, old filmmaker, I don't remember his name, popular filmmaker at least, accused of all these different things too. So like you said, all this stuff is.
Oh right, I know who you're talking about.
I don't remember his name, but it's like there's a witch hunt.
Yeah, but in this case, there are actual witches.
Right.
So, I mean, I would be worried, I'd be worried about a literal, I guess not literal, but a figurative, literal witch hunt taking place.
Yeah.
I think that it becomes really bleak for you white males out there, white males in position of power. I think it becomes really bleak for you because every time you turn around, it's stacking the deck against you.
Mm-hmm. Just today I read former President George H.W. Bush assaulted an actress, thought he was being silly or something, but it ain't silly. It's a serious thing. And it's no longer getting swept under the rug. And like Ben Affleck, history caught up with him with the experience he had on TRL, assaulted some woman. So it's apparently just rampant within culture, and for some reason, only now is it being like super put under the spotlight?
Right.
It's just really interesting. And like you were saying, and I was having this conversation with Brittany, with my wife too. I just don't know how someone within a position of such power, whether it be in Hollywood or politically or anything, like how they don't go down this path without God, and without living for any real purpose, like I imagine that lifestyle and everything that it brings just brings them. That's just a natural
Yeah, I mean,
progression of that.
You go through
that road.
You look at kings and emperors of the past and stuff. These people they sit, and I mean, Hollywood movie stars are like cultural gods.
Yeah, modern day.
They're idols, But then these people have the power to make them. In that vein, they would be like titans, I suppose.
Yeah.
So, yeah, of course, you would abuse that power because what is that without God?
Yeah, so
it's certainly not the opportunity to make people's lives better. It's the opportunity to take for yourself what you want.
Yeah, and for me, like, I don't know, like, why do positions gain that much power, like, within industries and stuff? Like, I don't know, clearly it's like, it's not good, whether it's the president of the United States and the authority and the power he has as like, the leader of a government or anything. Like, I don't know, like, is there not enough checks and balances in place?
I mean,
like, what is it? Like, how does someone get to a point where you're Harvey Weinstein and you are literally intimidating people from saying anything for 30 years because they're so scared that you are going to destroy their lives and their career and any possible career they would have had? Like, that is a gross amount of power.
I mean, I think Scripture talks about it in Romans 12, I believe. Maybe it's Romans 13. Somewhere in Romans, toward the last couple chapters, it talks about people in authority and needing to submit to those structures because God puts those people in place in order to sort of keep the world turning the way it needs to. But this is like a different beast because this isn't somebody.
This isn't like proper authority.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This isn't.
But it is like it's people's lives, like, and their way of making a living.
Well, so to that end, and this is not at all to. You gotta be careful how I say this.
Yeah.
This is not at all to put emphasis on people who have been victimized. But to that end, there is a willingness amongst both men and women to sell a piece of themselves to people in order, to gain something back. And I think where you really see something that's respectable is when people like quit the industry because they want to raise a family, for instance.
I love that story.
Yeah,
every time.
Or want to educate themselves and things like that. When you have people who, they will go and do whatever is necessary to get a role. That's when people like this swoop in and take advantage.
Yeah, and I was, again, like, I have to be careful because I was sort of being insensitive to it the other day, but somewhere along the way, and like you're saying, and I'm not excusing Harvey Weinstein at all.
Nope.
I want to make that clear. But somewhere along the way, a handful of women, or even one woman, indulged this and set him really down a path of thinking that this is okay and I can actually use this power. And so, like, there's a level of responsibility that has to be taken on women who are fine with doing that, to further their career, and again, I'm not excusing that whatsoever, and it's horribly unfortunate for the mass, apparently, amount of women that have been victimized by this, at least one man. But there's got to be a good amount of women that indulge that because they're fine with it. Like, they're fine with indulging that, and like, so it becomes a really just unfortunate issue on all parties.
Well, and we've been reading about that in the industry anyway. For years. I mean, what's the Corey Feldman?
Yeah.
there's a whole thing about Corey Feldman in the 1990s talking with Barbara Walters, and Barbara Walters like shuts him down and says that he's ruining the industry, and he was talking about his unfortunate experiences as a child being passed around in the industry. When we look at like men like Terry Crews, you know, he's talking about being groped, like out to dinner or something like that. He's talking about being groped. So I think what you have is something that's systemic, and I think that it is not specific to women, but it does take advantage of women specifically, if that makes sense. Like that system will target anybody that it perceives to be weak. And I don't know if this is like something that can be like afforded by something that can be assuaged by having women who are playing stronger characters or something. But, you know, if you look at like, I'm sure this would have all started back when Hollywood was like in its heyday, right? So like the 1950s and 30s, like 30s to 50s when it was in its heyday. And it's like you look at those roles of women and those women are portrayed as weak. So then you have these women who are portraying this weakness, and then you have men who are casting these women to portray this weakness. And then behind the scenes, they're trying to ensure that these women are weak. And so it's this whole systemic thing. And I wonder if part of the psychology of that can be sort of diverted by having women play more roles that, you know, fit the dynamicness of who a woman is. But with that said, it does seem to be systemic in that it is more than just gender-based. It's across the board. It's a power issue. And whatever institution it is, there's always going to be this power issue because people are corrupt, because people are sinful, because they suppress the image of God in them, and then they look at these people, and instead of seeing the image of God in these people, what do? They take and use that person to make them whoever they want to be. And they think because they're giving something back, stardom, that somehow excuses their actions or affords them a certain level of excuse. But
yeah, and that's what's interesting about him too. Like apparently, like he would do these things, and then he was good for it. Like he was good for like, you know, interjecting on their behalf. And I even heard like I was reading like he would literally like down to the level of like post-production editing. Like he would step in and be like, no, leave. They give them more scenes or keep those lines in there or stuff. So he was like super like. I don't know, good for his word, but at the cost of their, I don't know, everything.
Well, but it's also a form of grooming. You know, it's predatory behavior. So it like endears the person to them, where they become the sole provider for this person. So they're doing something nasty to them, but of course, you know, they are the sole provider for that person. Who was it that said, I just thought that it was Uncle Harvey? Who was it?
Was it one of those two?
I don't know. No. It was I think it's Gwyneth Paltrow. Don't quote me.
She was really young when it first happened to her.
Yeah, and she told Ben Affleck about it. Supposedly, she told Brad Pitt about it when she was dating Brad Pitt. And Brad Pitt supposedly, this is all alleged in 20th party or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
But then supposedly Brad Pitt went and said something to Harvey Weinstein about it, and then Harvey Weinstein chewed her out, and then they never talked about it again after that.
Okay, I remember that.
And that's how Matt Damon knows about it, because he was palling around with her and Ben Affleck. But yeah, like she had this impression of Harvey that, this is like an uncle figure or whatever. And so what you see is a predatory form of grooming in that. And it's sad. It's sad.
Yeah. And
they exist at all levels. But I do think that the industry itself, pushes or creates a warm bed for that sort of behavior to land.
Yeah. And it's just absolutely, it just blows my mind that like probably thousands of people like knew about it, and it was just accepted. And it's crazy. And then I think about like child actors that are being brought up now. Like what's the guy? The kid from Stranger Things. Is it Finn something or other? Is that the kid?
Finn Wolfhard
Is he the one that just ditched
with
his?
the awesome name.
Yeah,
Finn
it's
Wolfhard.
a cool name.
My name is Finn
Didn't he
Wolfhard.
just like ditch his agent because of his? He had some sort of experience also, sexual
Man,
something.
I hope not.
I know, and
I
it's
haven't heard.
no, it's heartbreaking though. And like you see, like families bringing their kids through the industry,
Right.
which they aren't. It's like, why would you want that for your kid, knowing
Right.
what it's all about? Like, how are you good with that? You know, like
Right.
you're exposing them to something, whether you think you could protect them from that or not. Like,
You would have to be like just on top of things. You have to really
super on top of it.
because you really are going into the belly of the beast. And
Yeah.
again, you're talking about an industry that lifts up the worst part of the human being, works them to the bone. And when I say the worst part, what I mean is vanity. So it lifts up the vanity of a person, asks them to judge themselves by objectifying themselves, and works them to the bone, isolates them, and like what do you expect? You're really not setting somebody up for success.
Yeah. Man.
Yes.
It's like really sad. Like I was reading that one today with that actress, and like she was describing that experience where like he like literally forced like oral sex on her, and I was like, this is heavy, man. This is like super intense, and it's really sad. So let's move on
Sure. What are we talking about?
for now. I'm sure this story will continue to gather more. Like I don't see it going away anytime soon. But let's move on to some more fun, lighthearted things.
More lighthearted.
You and I watched this new Netflix movie, The Babysitter, the other day.
Yeah.
What song is this, by the way?
Tainted Love.
Tainted Love. I love it for this trailer.
Yeah.
So without actually seeing the trailer, you could sort of get a feel for this movie. Just quick synopsis, and this isn't really a spoiler alert, but you might hear some stuff about it. But anyways, sort of a coming of age story, like loser kind of kid, has a hot babysitter, is in love with her or thinks, and then he sees her like commit a murder, and like they have this whole cult thing going on, and like sacrificing. Her and her friends are sacrificing this person, and so then the movie becomes about how this kid is going to face his babysitter and defeat the bad guys.
To grow up to the point where he no longer needs a babysitter.
Yeah,
it's a little bit on the nose.
Directed by McG, who we haven't seen since, I don't know,
Charlie's Angels.
Full Throttle, maybe Terminator, Salvation.
Oh, totally.
He's probably done some TV, sprinkled in. Maybe some of that Falling Sky show. I wouldn't be surprised if he had his hands in that. It was a weird movie. Like, I think I liked it, but it was one of those movies where you definitely got the sense that it wasn't taking itself seriously. And so it had that going for it. And so for movies like that, you judge them based on that. You don't like overly analyze or critique. Like you accept it for what it is.
Right.
But then there was like really weird like choices made, like writing some of the dialogue and some of the direction. And so like I couldn't tell if I really liked it or if it was really bad. And I'm coming from a position of knowing what I think it was trying to be. So it was just really weird for me.
I loved it.
Yeah.
And I have always liked movies like that. Shout out to John Parker. We used to watch some movies together. And one of the movies we watched was about these little people vampires. It was called 3 Feet Tall, 2-Inch Fangs. Something like
That's an awesome title.
Yeah, something like that. And they did like a rap at the end.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 3 feet tall, 2-inch fangs.
Like is it the credits or like that?
It's in the credits. It was in the credits. Anyway, but in that movie. Oh wait, I wasn't talking about that movie. Sorry, what was I talking about?
Are you talking about the babysitter? Or
Yes.
3 Feet Tall.
Yeah. Okay, tropes. That's what I was gonna say. There's a lot of tropes.
Yeah.
Like there's a whole Satanist thing,
Mm-hmm.
but it is nothing more than the setup for the movie to happen, and it really never gets addressed again. You don't really know like how it's all gonna work, and there's sort of like a MacGuffin in the film with this book.
What is that? I know what that is. What is that?
It's an industry term that it's a plot device that moves the story along that people are like searching for or trying to get into it. So like the Tesseract in the Marvel movies. So anyway, but yeah, it was just filled with tropes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was like a love letter. But I think the thing that I liked about it the most was that it wasn't just sort of like heinously graphic without cause. It at its core, and this is what I liked about it also, at its core, it was a coming of age story with sort of a morality tale to it. You know, evil was evil, good was good, and yeah, and the good prevails in the end. Spoilers. But good prevails in the end. You know, this kid grows up and learns, hey, I don't need a babysitter. It's just like, okay, it's ridiculous. If you have time to waste, which we don't. But
it's only 85 minutes.
Yeah, that's the other thing. That's what sold us on it.
Yeah.
It's like 85 minutes, and all right.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another spoiler for it. The Netflix screen for it shows this cheerleader on the screen, but she's like not even.
She's like a side
character.
They just used her because it's like good imagery.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a weird movie. I think I liked it, like I said, but there was moments where it's like, that is really weird. Like, why would they say that, or why would they do that? And it's just like super weird.
Hey,
I'd love to hear a director's cut on it.
Yeah.
Or like what do they call it? Like direct commentary or whatever?
Commentary, yeah. Here's what I would classify it as if you're interested. 85 minutes of Evil Dead meets Home Alone.
Home Alone, 100%.
Yeah.
Evil Dead meets Home Alone. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Maybe mixed with Die Hard.
Watch it in the right mindset, though. Like, don't go into it, expecting Oscar or something. Just, like, watch it because you want a fun movie to watch.
Yeah.
And don't overthink that.
Well, it seems like they had fun making it, which is important, too.
Yeah, for sure. I saw another movie, not this week, last week. That new Idris Elba movie called The Mountain Between Us.
Wow, that was loud.
Yeah, it really was loud. Sorry, guys.
I think my mic's a little loud, too. You just turn that knob on mic 2 or whatever. Turn down a little bit.
On game 2?
Yeah, game 2. There you go.
Him and another woman, miss their flight. They have to take, they hire some dude to privately fly them on a little piece of crap plane.
Right.
Spoiler alert, dude has a stroke mid-flight, and then they crash. Which, by the way, is a terrifying thought.
Yep.
Your pilot has a stroke,
yep.
And you are helpless. Anyways, they crash on this,
that's when you pull up the YouTube video.
Wintry mountains.
How to fly a plane.
Yeah, while you're going down
right.
through a mountain range. Anyways, they crash, and then the whole movie is them, like, trying to survive or just trying to live, like, waiting it out or doing whatever.
Make sure you hit that spoiler button if you reveal anything.
Yeah, that's a good point. So the movie progresses, and obviously they are experiencing the most traumatic thing that's ever happened in their life.
Right.
So FYI, woman is engaged to be married, and dude was married, but his wife died many years ago, so he's kind of a sad, lonely guy. She's engaged to be married. They're going through this super traumatic experience together. He's literally like tending her wounds throughout the entire movie and like keeping her alive because he's like a brain surgeon, so obviously he like knows a lot about
what? He's a brain surgeon?
He's a brain surgeon, not that a brain surgeon, necessarily equips you for
sure. Well,
but he has at least some.
If you are a surgeon, then you have to go through like the stages. So he's done some time.
If given the choice between him or nobody.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he's like
he's Idris Elba, so
he's super hot.
Yeah.
Super hot. Anyway, so he's like caring for her throughout the entire thing, and it's like sweet, and it's like, yeah, it's just a crazy thing. Anyways, at the end of it, they basically like are resigned to the fact that they're not making it out of this, and she like ends up like falling in love with him because of obvious reasons. Like the man is like saving her life and like refusing to let her go, when it would be much easier for him to just try and get out there, because by having her, he's more likely to die and all this stuff. So it begs the question. Anyways, back up. They end up being intimate or whatever. Spoiler again, they survive. They get reintegrated back into life. She is with her fiance. He goes back to his life of being a sad, lonely brain surgeon. And then it's like, and then she like realizes when she's back in her routine, like, I can't like live this life anymore. Like I just went through the craziest, most traumatic thing with this person, and I'm just supposed to separate from him forever,
Right.
They end up, embracing, and that's how the movie ends, like running towards each other and embracing, and then cut.
What if it turned out that her original life was that she was like homeless and on drugs or something?
And by being,
so they like come back to and then he like ends up.
No, man, she was like a super successful like National Geographic journalist.
I don't know,
photojournalist.
That's where my mind goes.
Yeah,
when I watch movies like that.
But I think it begs the question. Like it just it made me think, like, if in that situation, like, what is right? Engaged to be married. So she's not married, but is in love with another man prior to plane crash, and then almost die. But then has this experience, and then this other guy, just what's right? Like, because it sucks for the other guy, the fiance. Guy like almost lost his fiance, his soon-to-be wife, and it, by all accounts, is a good guy. Like nothing about him was wrong, at least how the movie portrayed that character. So it's like, this guy's getting hard done, but this woman just went through the most traumatic thing she'll ever go through with this other man.
So first of all, shout out to looks like Colin and Jennifer are watching us, but shout out to them. Second of all, do you remember Castaway with Tom Hanks?
Yeah.
Isn't that what happened in Castaway?
Yeah, with her. Like she leaves her husband, but it's years and years, and then like he ends up getting off the island and then goes back to see her. Yeah, sure. So it's not.
So it's not new.
It's not new.
It's not new in recent cinema, but
sure.
Well,
but it's an interesting question, and like, what's right? Not married, engaged to be married, in love with another guy, but then falls in love with this guy through this horrible thing. Like,
I mean, I think in a situation like this, it's like the better question is what's wrong. I mean, you're married. Okay, so she wasn't married.
She was not married yet.
She wasn't married
yet. She was literally flying to her wedding.
Right. Okay. So like she wasn't married yet, and we're gonna go on society's definition in this version of things. For those of you who don't know, the Bible actually says whoever you
send us a DM.
Whoever you are sleeping with, you're actually married to.
We don't know that they're sleeping together, though.
We don't, but we're gonna.
A lot of assumptions being thrown around.
All right, a lot of assumptions. Okay,
let's what we have. What we have.
But so it's not a moral question. Then it's not a moral question unless she actually was married to the guy. So in my mind, it's not a moral question because you're not married yet, and then you like come across this, then you have this life-changing experience, and so it is what it is. But if she was married, that's when it becomes morally sticky. And so in my mind, it's an issue of what's wrong rather than what's right. So after you've had this experience with this guy, do you then throw away all of this experience that you had with this other person? Because there's no denying. I mean, I guess we don't know the state of the relationship that she was in with the
It portrays it like it was a perfectly like healthy and whatever marriage. Both like successful people loved each other, and he like I mean it portrayed it like fine, so good.
So here's what I can say. Like, so I'm married. I've been married for almost 10 years. So next year I'll be married for almost 10 years. Adam's married. He's been married for 5 years. 5, right? And what I can say is, if I thought I was going to die, and I met some girl, and we had this relationship, and then we had sex, and because we thought we were going to die, and we thought that was right before God, and therefore I now see myself as married to her, then first of all, I could do one of two things according to the scripture. So one is I could be polygamous. But if I was, sister wives style. But if I was polygamous, I would have to step down as a minister because the scripture says that a minister cannot be polygamous. They have to be married just to one. But I could be polygamous, and we sort of balk our eyes at that in Western culture. But quite honestly, it's all over the place. It's really just the Western culture that takes issue with it. Now, let me just say that would need to be in a loving package where I would need to do right by both of those wives.
And that gets complicated.
It's not something I'd ever want to do.
Right.
I've never come across a situation where I was like, oh, I could do that. But so that's one thing. I could be polygamous, and then the other thing would be to ask for forgiveness and be with my original wife.
Yeah, I just want to state they don't do it, and I know you know what I'm talking about, but they don't get intimate because like, oh, we're gonna die, might as well have sex on that side. Like they legit fall in love with each other and as the last people they'll ever know and taking care of each other. Yeah, so just clear that up. But yeah, it's interesting. And then I guess you're right. You bring up Castaway, it's exactly the same thing. Only he doesn't have sex with Wilson, or a whale or anything.
Right, right. So I brought up the years aspect of our relationships because I know that 1 year, and I think anybody who's being realistic, unless there's a problem in their relationship, 1 year of not 1 year, 10 years of being with somebody, having this life that's built up, and being faithful and committed, where that relationship is right before God, which is sort of the impression that's being given. This relationship is good and pure and healthy and all that. If that relationship is right before God, you wouldn't just throw that away because you met somebody, and you went through a traumatic experience with each other. It's not even sound on a mental health.
Yeah, sure.
In a mental health way. I mean, you've got the infatuation stage, which you need to get through, so on and so forth. If you felt that your wife didn't have the answers, or you felt conflicted, the best thing in a situation to do, so here's a third option, would be to not be with anybody. To work it out and not be with anybody.
That's where he was. That's where he was
messed up. Right.
Not because he didn't want to.
That's a weird situation. Michaela, I would leave you and be with that other person.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
No, it was a good movie though, for what it's worth.
There's your inappropriate sound clip.
Michaela, I will leave you. God. Anyways, all right, moving on. So there might be a morality question. We watched a trailer the other day, a new Keanu Reeves movie.
Yep.
The dynamic Keanu Reeves.
I love Keanu Reeves.
Love me some Neo. He's got a movie coming out called Replicas.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a trailer. Creepy. Okay.
Yeah.
You can't really gather what's going on based on that, but
He said, I would defy every natural. I would defy.
What does that mean? What's going on
Every
actually?
natural law.
So, the trailer gives us a picture his wife?
His wife and his kids.
Wife and kids have died already?
Yeah, it's revealed in the trailer. So
have died already, and this guy is working for some groundbreaking, company that literally what do you call that?
Transfers consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Using dead physical body, but
yeah,
it's really. Anyways, what's the morality question there? Is that right?
Well, I think what you're dealing. Yeah, I think there's a question of is that right? I think you're asking the question of, or begging the question of whether the physical body is disconnected or can be disconnected from the spiritual body. I think you get into issues of soteriology when you look at that. It's one of my favorite issues to talk about in terms of soteriology. Those who don't know, that is a high theological term for salvation. One of the things that the church tends to focus on is the idea of being saved. And what does it look like when salvation for the soul is now technological? all of a sudden you have two options. You have Jesus and you have a computer.
Mm-hmm.
So what this is doing in my mind is priming people for the other option, which they're actively working on. And, and why shouldn't they?
Just beating God,
Yeah.
Playing God or whatever you want to call
Yeah.
it.
And it's not the first movie to do that. In
Being
years.
infinite.
Was it Johnny Depp? Johnny Depp just did a movie.
Transcendence.
Transcendence, yeah.
And what was the Scarlett Johansson?
Is her name even that? No.
Wasn't the movie like called and it was her name?
Yeah.
Same thing though, right?
Does anybody know? Anybody who's watching? Does anybody know?
Colin Sakowitz of
Oregon? Of Oregon.
Hey, we're in Oregon.
Oregon. Yeah, if anybody knows, hit us back in the comments for what movie that is.
So it's not new, but yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
There's
I
definitely
like
an obsession over it.
I like movies like that, but I do think it's an interesting topic, and I'm interested to get some comment on it once we get it back.
Let's hope it's Keanu Reeves one to shed the physical all the time.
Right? Yeah. Interestingly enough, if you haven't got a chance to watch The Matrix, which we just screened it with somebody who had never seen The Matrix,
and that's always fun.
Well, it is. Because, whoa.
Well,
yeah, but if you haven't got a chance to watch it, it's leaving Netflix.
There's a lot of that's a good segue.
Yeah,
good segue, Josh.
Thank you.
So there's a lot of interesting movements and movements towards streaming services.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading or listening, I can't remember, but basically like licensing is a thing of the past now, and that's why Netflix is just dumping money into original content.
It's because everybody wants their own. They want to farm their own IP.
Yeah, Disney's pulling all their stuff and gonna have their own stream thing, which
Disney. That's gonna be the streaming service to own
for sure.
Right there. I mean,
I expect us to have it.
We will.
I hope it doesn't cost a lot, but you got CBS with their thing. You got Hulu. You got Amazon. You got Netflix.
Okay, let's go. I'm gonna try here.
Okay.
Showtime, HBO, Cinemax, Epix, Crackle,
FX.
Hulu, Amazon. Well, FX is kind of I guess FX has its own stuff. It's got original series and stuff, but they're available.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
Let's see. We said Amazon already.
YouTube even?
YouTube. PlayStation Network. Yeah, they just tried to do a TV series.
They had Powers.
That's the
Which
one.
was a few years ago.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's really interesting, and what was I going to say on that? The direction it's all heading. I don't remember. Sorry. Yeah, I forgot. But it's interesting, and like Netflix is like operating in the red all the time, or something like that, because of how much money they're just.
But it's constantly gaining
new subscribers, new users. Yeah, so it's like a sustainable model, but it's crazy, man. You got Will Smith and a Hollywood blockbuster on Netflix. Straight to your
Which
TV.
I'm stoked about, although it looks like MIB like 5 or something.
I'm stoked about it too. Yeah, it's cool. It looks sort of like District 90 too.
Oh yeah, totally.
Can you see that?
Yeah,
it's called Bright. Anyways, let's break up some monotony of different categories here and do our thing.
Sounds good. Time to play the game!
That's Motorhead for all of you guys that are interested. I love that. All right, we got some trivia. For those who tuned in last time, Josh and I have this competitive little game we got going here where we do some trivia with each other, exchange some questions. This week, we got some 80s horror trivia questions in honor of Stranger Things, in honor of Halloween, in honor of it, in honor of everything that's just really relevant right now. Yeah. Fun fact, Josh, I had someone who was listening to our podcast who was really pulling for me when you were asking me questions because I couldn't spit out the answer, but I knew it. So I'm hoping to.
And he was sort of disappointed.
He was disappointed. It was my brother-in-law. I brought shame to that family, or to him at least. So we got some 80s trivia questions. And I think that we've decided part of what the winner will get. So what is that?
So the winner gets to decide the other person's sound clip. So it's a sound clip, I don't know, we need a term for it, but it's like a sound clip war. So basically the way it works is we want sound clips, we call them carts in the industry. And essentially it's like when you hear like the Michael Scott note, like that.
Yeah.
No! Right. So for those of you who don't know,
The Office is a great show. Anyways,
that was when Toby showed up.
Yeah.
Anyway, so so the idea is if you lose, you are crowned winner of the show, and you get to choose what the other person has to say that we will be able to turn into a sound clip for later.
yeah. But like fun, good stuff, not like Boys Buzz driving me nuts or something.
So the way I see it is we want people to, in terms of controversialness, they may raise their eyebrow, but we don't want them to raise their fists.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Did Daddy teach you that? All right. So I will ask the first question. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, good. So Josh was born in 1980, so I feel like he's got the upper hand on this one. I'm born in the 90s, but I feel like I'm decently plugged in. But anyways, first question lobbed your way. Which popular 80s horror thriller was filmed at Timberline Lodge in Oregon?
Shining.
Man, good job. You win that game. All right, hit me with the first one.
All right, here it goes.
Do
What famous two-part series did Zach Galligan star in that is connected to both John Lithgow and William Shatner?
Gremlins.
Good. Nice.
I knew it because of Zach Galligan.
Oh, really?
Which is really weird.
Yeah.
But I'm remembering William Shatner now. Which 1980s horror characters serious... I don't want to ask that question. I'm just going to ask it. I didn't even realize what I was reading.
Okay.
Which 1980s horror characters seriously do not like water? Oh, come on.
And you didn't want to ask it?
Don't play dumb.
But now you're throwing me off because you didn't want to ask it.
Don't play dumb.
It's the Gremlins.
It's Gremlins. Good job. Your turn. I should have said that last.
So, Ash from the Evil Dead series.
I'm aware.
What is his last name?
Williams.
Very nice.
This ultra-famous filmmaker stated that he actually really dislikes the Walking Dead series.
George Romero?
Bingo.
Oh, I was worried about that.
This is like a soccer penalty shootout where it's just like 1-for-1 and every time it's a sigh of relief.
Okay.
Your turn.
What is the town Castle Rock? In Stephen King movies, there's this town that constantly shows up called Castle Rock. What book is it inspired by?
What book? I don't know.
The Lord of the Flies. It's the name of a chapter.
I never even had to read that book.
What? It's a William Golding classic.
I never had to read it in high school, so I would have never read it. That's not actually true about me, but anyways, there are 9 movies that comprise this 80s movie franchise.
Oh, jeez. Friday the 13th.
You were like 50-50 chance. It was Nightmare on Elm Street.
Ah!
So it all comes
So
down
we're even on
to
this.
the last question,
Okay.
which sucks. Which 80s horror protagonist borrows his popular catchphrase from a slang colloquialism popular during the 60s and 70s? I will repeat that.
Okay.
Which 80s horror protagonist borrows his popular catchphrase from a slang colloquialism popular during the 60s and 70s?
Which 80s horror what?
Protagonist.
Protagonist. Oh, there's not so many protagonists.
His popular catchphrase.
And it's a man.
Is it?
Well, it's his. I mean, of all those, I would have to say Ash, but I don't know.
Yeah. Do you remember what I'm referring to?
Groovy.
Groovy.
Yeah, groovy.
All right. We have to have a sudden death question. Crap. Go. You might win it right here.
Okay. Do I want to do this one or that one?
Man, I don't want to embarrass myself.
This 1986 film starring Jeff Goldblum won David Cronenberg his only Oscar.
Did we watch it at Man Night Monthly?
No.
I remember Jeff Goldblum being like
Yeah.
a random character in what movie was that? Not the Stall? I can't remember.
Oh. I mean, I always think.
All right, say it again. David Cronenberg. I like David Cronenberg movies. They're dark. Kind of weird, but
This 1986 film starring Jeff Goldblum won David Cronenberg his only Oscar, and I'll give you a hint: it's for Best Director. That probably doesn't help you.
shut up. Man, I bet you my brother-in-law would know this again.
Probably. He's probably. I don't see him on our feed, but he's probably ranting right now in not actual time.
I don't know.
You ready?
Yeah.
It's called The Fly. It's hugely famous.
Is he the main character?
Yeah, Jeff Goldblum's name.
He is?
He's creepy.
Really?
Yeah, he's really creepy.
Is he a bad guy? Is he the Fly?
He's the Fly.
What's it about?
He gene splicing.
Oh,
He becomes that movie. No.
All right. So do we do it now or do we do it at a later time? What are you going to make me say? Whether I say it now or not.
it's gonna be. It'll be fairly innocuous. So.
And when I say it, I have to like sell it, right? Like
Yeah, you
with
have to sell
passion
it.
and conviction.
Yeah.
All right.
Gosh, what should I make?
You should just write it down for me, and I'll say it.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna let people who are watching. So we only got one viewer. Come up with an idea, and at the end of the show, we'll do it. Does that sound good?
At the end of this show, we'll do it.
Yeah.
What's the idea they're coming up with?
For you to say. A sound clip for you to say.
Oh, okay. Man, I had some good ones. So wait, is this a rolling thing? Like if I win next week or whatever, then man, I'm 0 for 2. That was a good one, Mel. That was a good blow for blow.
That was good.
Good blow for blow there. All right. So moving on, we got Sam Smith and Kesha, who are confused about their relationship with God.
Yeah. That's the way to put it.
We have I think we have a Sam Smith clip
So
there.
just FYI, they can't hear our sound clips, so that's something we'll have to figure out in post. But
And probably they'll just have to re-listen to the podcast.
I guess so. Subscribe.
Too bad, so sad. So here's a Sam Smith clip for his new song, Parade, which he performed on SNL.
Yep, just a couple weeks ago.
Well, that's nice.
Let me see if I can pull up those lyrics. Did you see?
Oh, I got him right here.
Did you see what? Oh, you got him.
I got him.
Did you see what Heidi and Colin just said on the?
What clip should Adam say? Finger licking, finger licking, finger licking good.
That doesn't count.
Oh.
And then the other one is totes nice.
No, he's just responding to Heidi.
Oh, he's just responding to Heidi. Do you just want to get it out of the way? You want to go with that one, or should we let people think about it longer?
How about this is a special treat for our viewers. She suggested that. What's yours? And then they can decide.
Okay.
All right, so we got this one. Finger licking, finger licking, finger licking good. And we got Josh's.
Okay, mine is. It's gonna go from. I was gonna go from something from Baby Got Back.
Okay. Sure makes a lot.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's my anaconda don't want none unless you've got buns on.
Okay. I'm supposed to say that now?
Yeah. But
Do I have to do that?
do you want them to choose what they want to do?
Right now?
Yeah.
Sure.
Let them choose. We'll hit it later.
All right. Do I have to do
We're
that?
still open. We're
Do
still
I have to do that?
suggestions.
Do I have to do that? My anaconda don't.
No.
My
Yes, yes, you would have to do that. So if Adam does the anaconda thing, then he's gonna have to do. He's gonna have to do it in the Sir Mix-a-Lot style.
I will not ever run for president. This will be used against me.
Okay, but for those of you who just joined us,
Sam Smith is a sad man.
yeah. I'm sorry, it's not funny. He's sincere.
He's sincere, and his theology is a little dumb.
Well, I don't think he really has a theology. That's the thing.
I'm young and I'm foolish. I've made bad decisions. I block out the news, turn my back on religion. Nice. Okay. And then we got, that type of attitude, he says, isn't getting him any higher, meaning getting him anywhere in life.
Yep.
So that makes sense. Maybe I'll pray as a last resort, which that's kind of sad and insulting. Maybe I'll pray. I never believe in you, but maybe I'm going to pray. It's just, I read it. That's how I read it. Like it's, you won't find me in church. No. Reading the Bible. No.
For the record, I love that part.
I'm still here and I'm still your disciple. Oh, that's a nice recognition. I'm down on my knees. I'm begging you. I'm broken, alone, and afraid. I'm not a saint or a sinner, etc. We heard the rest. So we'll get your serious take because we just heard my sarcastic.
Right.
Okay. Take.
So, my serious take on this is that you have a bunch of people who are coming out of a postmodern ideology, right? They have been taught that if there is a God, that God is more of a fable or a fairy tale, and their understanding of him has to be an irrational understanding. And so because of that, when they're in these serious moments of cognitive dissonance, when they are caught between their need to make sense of something that they view as completely a losing battle, right? They can't make sense of this world that they're in, but they still have within them the image of God that burns within them. And so they haven't fully suppressed it, they can't fully suppress it and hold it down. And so there's this moment that pops out where they're like, maybe there's something, right? And so that's when they pray. And so from that standpoint, I would say that the notion is beautiful. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The notion is beautiful.
Too bad that's not enough.
It's not enough.
Not even close.
And so what it says to me is that somebody like Sam Smith, if this is a true representation of where he's at, then those sincere believers who are in his life, because there has to be some, one or two, they need to seriously have a conversation with him and show him.
Yeah, it's a cry for help.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't just leave someone who's dying,
right.
and they're crying for help. Like, that's a good point.
Right. So that's where I'm at with it. He says stuff like, I'm still your disciple. And we can get into the concept of being children of God and him having that notion and him not having a correct theology about it. But, and certainly we should, if he was ever to proclaim Christianity, which he doesn't, but if he was ever to proclaim Christianity or wanted clarification on that subject, we as Christians should be ready to give an answer for our hope, and to be ready to explain to him why he has those feelings and what he can do to clarify his confused nature. But with that said, I would say that it's a good first step on his part. Now, we have to be careful because as cultural Christians, sometimes we hear pray, we hear a church choir in the background.
Oh, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
And that's what we get is this
veil over your eyes.
It's so beautiful. And, that is so dangerous. That message is so dangerous. It's like taking you to church. Who is it that does it? Hosier? But you listen to Take Me to Church, and you hear that Take Me to Church, and you hear that great bass riff. That song is amazing musically. And it says Take Me to Church, so that means it must be okay. But the reality of it is it's completely the opposite. So that's my take on it.
And then Kesha has a song titled the same thing out right now.
Praying versus pray. It's got that nasty gerund at the end of the word.
What's gerund?
ING.
Oh. Yeah, hers is a lot seems like it's a lot less from like her feelings and where she's at versus like this guy that did her wrong or former or whatever. I don't know. Her song's a lot more vapid to me.
I think you're going to see a lot of this stuff. I think that right now there's a lot of a push from. I shudder to call these people genuine thinkers, but seems like maybe they are. And so you have this push from genuine truth seekers who are really thinking about their situation. Who knows if they even wrote their own music? I think Kesha did. I don't know about Sam Smith, but
isn't he like singer-songwriter? I don't know.
So, but you're going to have this genuine push from these artists to start moving in this direction. And I think what that signifies to us as Christians, as culture follows art, is that we should be ready for an influx of people who are postmodern in their ideology, who are on the cusp of being nihilistic, and who need us to be ready to give them the answer. But that means we're going to have to be able to see through the beauty and touch down on the real issues that have ungrounded them from their faith. And sometimes that faith is going to be entirely minuscule, and sometimes that faith is going to come with a lot. So we got to be ready.
Yeah.
Is there anything cool on the board?
Meaning what?
Oh, you were looking over there. I just didn't know.
I'm just looking at what I got at my disposal.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. We're at an hour, but I want to hit some of these TV topics because there's a lot. Fall TV, baby.
Yeah.
And whatever we don't hit, we can just include in our next episode. First, Walking Dead. You Walking Dead current?
I did not watch the season premiere. But
that's all of them?
Yeah, I'm on
okay, well then I can talk to you about it, and I guess maybe a morality question that I just added today, but I guess I'll put a spoiler alert on. Yeah, most of your spoilers are going to be about season 7, but if you're not current, mute your volume. So, Walking Dead, all focused around Negan and Rick and, Kingdom and Hilltop and Alexandria.
Yeah.
Uniting to defeat Negan and his saviors, as they call themselves. Yeah. My question is, so in this latest episode, and no spoilers really, but just general whatever. So there's this, they keep hitting on this message, we just have to kill one. We just have to kill one, and then the rest can make their choice, but we just have to kill one. So my question is, we're dealing with like post-apocalyptic, right?
Sure.
There's a lot of dynamics, but Negan, as we know, is like a bad guy. Right?
Sure.
Maybe the baddest guy that Walking Dead has seen.
Right.
What'd you say?
That television has seen, maybe.
The TV in general.
He's bad.
Oh, dude, he's real bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that pilot last season 7, that was like one of the hardest episodes of anything.
The premiere, yeah.
Yeah, not pilot, yeah, premiere season 7. Brutality aside, like just what we had to see.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan, he's a scenery chewer for sure.
Oh yeah. But my question is, so in a situation like that, where this guy is bad, like no question about it, he's the bad one,
right?
Even though he's got a whole following of people, but arguably they're just with him because they're afraid. Is that position of taking that guy out, just have to kill one, is that justified at all? Like, what would God think about that?
If what you're trying to do is ceremonially cleanse something, then yes, I would say that it's justified. I don't think that's what they're doing.
So what do you mean, just for people, when you say ceremonially cleanse?
So you take like the Jews, and we're getting into some like heavy theology, and some people might have issues with it, but whatever. Where you take like the Jews, and they're going in and they're doing what people nowadays would call ethnic cleansing in the Promised Land, right? So why are the Jews going in and doing that? And you see in there that there are certain situations in Scripture where we see a level of killing that is for a purpose, to ceremonially cleanse it, that area, so that it is ready for worship, essentially. Now, mind you, we're dealing with a whole bunch of like cultural issues, and the Jews, I mean, we're talking about essentially a way of life. The Jews are not on their own in this way of thinking, right? It's like everybody was thinking this way. So are there certain situations where that makes sense? Yeah, I don't think that this situation is that. These people are survivors, and they weren't called to take these cities, and they weren't called by God to cleanse this so that they could be God's people, and so on and so forth. And so really what they're doing, so then it becomes an issue of survival. And at that point, you're dealing in terms of morality with somewhat of a gray area, I would say. Defensive killing is different.
But as we see in the show with Negan, he's treating people good, quote unquote,
right,
as long as they're giving to his cause, you know? And he's willing to work with your colony as long as you provide for his colony. And
so what do we see in Scripture? What we see in Scripture is again and again and again that the Jews were taken captive by other nations, and they were just constantly being beat down by these other nations. And it's God who provides salvation for the people. It's not the people who take that salvation into their own hands and decide to go assassinate Nebuchadnezzar. You never see them say, "Oh, we're going to kill Xerxes." It just doesn't. That's not the way that God works. In fact, we see Scripture multiple times saying that when somebody is in leadership and they've taken you over and there's nothing you can do about it, they're in that position for a reason. So what you do is you submit. And I know that that seems controversial, but it's not my narrative. It's the narrative that's in Scripture. So from that standpoint, you could say it's a little more along the lines of the one guy. What was his name? The scientist guy. The scientist is not really a scientist, making bombs. You know what I'm talking about?
For some reason, no. The
guy that Abraham saves?
Oh. Wow, what's his name? It's a really dorky name, isn't it?
Yeah. And he's got the mullet.
Yeah, well, he's sold out.
Yeah. But, you know, the issue is, right. The issue is, do you see these people as being made in the image of God and what that looks like? Now, before you kowtow to the idea that these people are actually your leadership, and I think it's arguable that that has not happened really yet. I mean, maybe it did because Rick gave in there for a little bit, but not everybody is along those lines. Before you submit to that leadership, while you're still in that rebellion stage because they've taken you over, and God hasn't said to you you're going to be taken away. And that's the other thing. Like the Jews, when they did this, they were told that it was because they were told that they were put in these situations because of idol worship and all these things. You don't have that with the survivors. So there's that too.
It's not like life for life.
Right. It's not a perfect analog. What was I saying? Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that I don't think there's a moral certainty about what's right and wrong in this situation. I would hope if I were in that situation that I would act as much like Christ as possible, and I don't think you see Christ doing that. And you see him like, I'm going to assassinate the Romans.
It's okay, guys. We just have to kill.
We just got to kill Pontius Pilate.
Pontius Pilate, yeah. I'm loving that show again, though. I go through weird roller coasters with that show, and it's because of those mid-season finales. I'm certain of it. They take my momentum away, and then there's just too much other TV, and then you forget about it. But I'm liking it right now. Although I did just read that last season had some of the lowest ratings because it was like slow, and like the Negan scenes, while he's cool and good, he's just like there's nothing really progressing, you know.
Yeah, and you know, let me just add, like, I feel like I feel like it would be like if you really felt pushed into a corner and you committed that death. No, I don't feel like that's good. No, I take it back. I was trying to give some grace there, but I think that if you have a premeditated murder,
Yep, which is what
that's what it would be. If you have that premeditated murder, I would say that it's morally inappropriate. Now, if he, in that moment, for instance, in the scene, season 6, at the end of season 6, where he's got the bat system, right? In that moment where you don't have time to think and you're just doing whatever you can and you end up killing him, or think to yourself, I need to kill him to get away, to survive, or this is like, or you're overcome with the fact that this person is evil, and you have this like psychological break where you just, I gotta do this, where you feel compelled. I think that is different, and I think the law even acknowledges that it's different. A psychological
law.
Yeah, it's a crime of passion versus a premeditated crime. So, yeah, it's a tough one. I would never want to be in that situation.
Yeah, I know, it's tough. There's been some tough choices for those characters, for Rick and people. I'm liking it again. Speaking of crime, have you watched any of that new show, Mindhunter?
No, it's on my list.
Oh, I seriously feel like you of all people,
I love shows like that.
But I told you what, like the base.
I watched a preview for it.
Oh, it's so good. It's like the developing like modern day like criminology.
Yeah,
it's just really cool to like. I mean, it's a drama. It's not like
right.
It's not.
It's scripted.
Yeah, but it's based on real things or whatever. But
Does it follow real people?
I don't think it follows real people. Maybe I'm wrong actually. Maybe like I don't know if like their characters' names were real detectives or whatever.
Right.
But some of the like criminals that they're like interviewing, while played by actors, I think that they are in fact based on real criminals. So
yeah.
So it must be like based in reality. But man, it's interesting. It's cool. Like the first episode is like this, green kind of like negotiator or whatever, and like negotiation goes sour, and then the rest of the episode like they're trying to figure out why nothing is making sense anymore, like based on the traditional analyzing and like how you handle criminals.
Right.
There came a point in time in like the 70s where there was no pattern. The pattern killers is what they call it, or whatever. Like there's no pattern anymore. So then they like start diving into it. Oh, how is this guy's mother when he was a kid, and how is he oppressed? And it's really good. It's really, really interesting.
Yeah, it does sound like something I would be really interested in.
It starts slow, but it gets good by like episode 2 or 3.
I'm a huge fan, for those of you who don't know, of, I guess, stories like that.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite characters on television is Gorin. Do you guys know Gorin? Robert Gorin, played by the great Vincent D'Onofrio on Law and Order. I love that character. It gets in people's minds.
Yeah. I love Vincent D'Onofrio, but I do not like Law and Order. Speaking of serialized TV,